Welcome to the party. I'm Sam Ekstrom of Locked On Sports Minnesota. Starting a little later today, snow delay on a snowy Wednesday in the Twin Cities. We're glad you're with us, though, on Locked On Sports Minnesota. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for making us your first watch or listen here at on the Minnesota Football Party. And for your second watch or listen, check out Locked On Vikings with host Luke Braun with great daily Vikings content. And you can find our audio, the Locked On Vikings podcast feed. It drops on Wednesdays at 3 p.m. Central. Check it out. We'll meet the full crew in a second. On today's show, we're talking about the Vikings' decision officially not to tag Sam Darnold. Does that signal his exit? And what could that mean? What could the repercussions be for the Vikings front office? Plus, what is this set up? Are we looking at a J.J. McCarthy, Daniel Jones competition? Will it even be a competition? All that and more on the Minnesota Football Party. Let's meet our crew today. It's our Care 11 show. Let's go around the horn and introduce yourselves.
I'm Julia Daniels. I'm a sports reporter at Care 11. I think this could be the most snow I've ever seen in my entire life, if I'm being completely honest here. That's fallen all at one time. I know. That's hilarious.
Arkansas didn't produce 8 inches of snow in March?
No, can't say it did.
This is nothing. This is nothing.
So, yeah, I'm just a little bit in shock this morning, but we are going to talk about Kwesi's future. Does the quarterback situation impact Kwesi's future with the Vikings?
Reggie Wilson, sports director at Care 11. I'm old enough to remember when I moved into this place in April, there was a blizzard the night before. So
You're old enough to remember that?
Yeah, exactly. That was 2 years ago. But yeah, anyway, we're talking Vikings. And look, this quarterback situation, it really reminds me of last year with Kirk Cousins.
I don't know how old Sam was in 1996 and 1997. How old were you, Sam?
I would have been 5 or 6 years old.
So Sam remembers, well, you may remember these. There were 21 and 22-inch snowstorms in Minnesota. So this is nothing. I actually came with my recruiting visit to Minnesota in December, January, and it ended up being 21 inches of snow, and I still committed. I don't know why I did, but clearly God had a plan for me. But I'm Ron Johnson, former Gophers wide receiver, NFL wide receiver, and the snow never bothered me anyway. And so I picked Minnesota. But I got to talk about this, people. There are some teams out there that are having embarrassment of riches in draft picks. So can Kwesi save this draft by just reaching out to a couple friends that he knows?
And I'm going to top all of you guys with the snow thing. This is the most Minnesotan cold open ever, by the way, talking about our snow experiences. I was born a week after the Halloween blizzard of 91 in Duluth, Minnesota. My parents had to drive to the hospital through snowbanks that were taller than they were. That's my experience coming into the world. I was born in this.
Like Bane.
Yeah.
You just adopted the snow. I was born in it.
Well, that's my story. I'm sticking.
Thanking God for a summer baby.
Yep. Yeah, I was May. I was born in May, so thank goodness.
I was in the South, so we didn't worry about these things.
Yep. And now it's going to melt in 2 days. We're going to have flooding, and it's going to be great. Julia Daniels, Reggie Wilson, Ron Johnson, myself, Sam Ekstrom. We're glad you're with us. Let's dive in. Sam Darnold will not be tagged. Curiously, and Reggie said this, feels like last year with Kirk Cousins. We don't really want to overcommit to you, but we want you. Rest assured, we want you. That's the reporting on Sam Darnold. The Vikings would like to negotiate something. It's not going to be via franchise tag. That eliminates the chance of a tag and trade. So now the only way they get him back is, giving him that long-term deal, multi-year deal. Ron and I talked about it at length on the Ron Johnson show yesterday. I would also like to put forth this question too, and Reggie will give you the first crack at this. How does this affect Kwesi Adolfo-Mensa's future? I think he built a lot of equity with the Sam Darnold move, right? Like, that's a big feather in his cap. He and whoever else in the room identified, we can get something out of this guy at a good price, and they did. This is another big decision now, letting Darnold walk and banking on the development of the the young rookie quarterback, JJ McCarthy. So how will the GM, and I assume the head coach too, how will they be affected long term if this doesn't go the way they think it's going to go?
So here's the thing. The GM probably becomes the fall guy. I think Kevin O'Connell has kind of like bought himself enough of a leash there where it's like, oh, you kind of give him the benefit of the doubt. 2 13+ win seasons, NFL Coach of the Year, multiple quarterbacks since he's been here. Like, I think you give him a little bit more of a leash there. And I think Kwesi probably becomes a little bit more of a fall guy if things don't work out. But here's the thing, we talked about this last week, and Kwesi was a little bit more like transparent and just kind of understanding and showing his understanding of the fact that some of his drafts have not gone very well. And so, especially that first one, but he's kind of made up for some things with his free agency decisions and like kind of rebuilding the team, the whole competitive rebuild thing. And so, I think it would be tough, but I don't like that he would be the fall guy with the McCarthy thing, because that was a collective decision. They all loved McCarthy after meeting with him at the combine last year, and everything that he did, the show and prove that he could be a guy that they could take and mold into a future franchise quarterback. The tough thing with McCarthy is the injury sucks, because it would be all the same if they just held him back last year. Like if he's able to, go through practices and show what he can do, show what he's seeing, show a progression in his understanding of the game from a physical standpoint, but he wasn't able to be out on the field. And that's the tough part in this evaluation, because you're like, yeah, he might have gotten better mentally, showing, he understands, but putting the mental together with the physical is what makes the best quarterbacks. And, you look at some of the best analysts or guys that didn't necessarily play, like Dan Orlovsky wasn't the best quarterback, but he understands the game at a high level. Kevin O'Connell, he talked about it. Like, he got into coaching. He knew that he wasn't the guy to play the quarterback position at a high level, but like he had understanding of the game at a high level. And so I think that would be the tough part. But I think their development of JJ McCarthy was stunted by the injury last year, because he wasn't able to get on the field at all. So you don't really know what you have. You're kind of going off of the practice reps and the things that you saw at Michigan and his career up until his rookie season in the NFL to kind of make your decision on what happens. And so if he doesn't do well, I do think maybe Kwesi becomes a little bit of a fall guy, but I think it's pretty unfair.
Ron Johnson, your thoughts?
Yeah, so I you can't put that on Kwesi, but I will say this. If you look at past GMs that drafted quarterbacks that ended up being a bust and how it ruined their careers, you look at the Browns with was it Johnny Manziel or Baker Mayfield? I can't remember which one, but I think it was Baker Mayfield. One of the two. I think it was Johnny Manziel maybe, but you can go back and look at GMs and the worst moves they've made. Here's the problem. Everybody is saying the right things about JJ McCarthy. Kevin O'Connell has been known to be able to just get like anything out of anybody. I struggle to feel like it's gonna, like, even what's his name, the Ohio State guy, Kurt Herbstreit. He just came out on Pat McAfee's show saying the same exact thing. JJ McCarthy can be great with Kevin O'Connell. He said, imagine Kirk Cousins at the age of 23 with Kevin O'Connell leading him and trusting him versus the Commanders that didn't really know what they had in them. Like, and a quarterback that can move better than Kirk Cousins at the age of 23. I think that's what people are. So I struggle to even feel like it's going to be a bust because of the weapons and because of the offense. It's called pace and space. You think about the amount of space they try to create for Justin Jefferson and the pace at which they wanted to play. They didn't have that as much with Sam Darnold. I feel like JJ McCarthy gives them that pace. But if it does not go right, yes, it is going to come down to Kwesi. You look at the 3 draft picks right now. Kwesi can pull a rabbit out of his hat, and we'll talk about that a little bit later because we're going to talk about the draft and, future. But I will say this. There are some moves Kwesi can make that could help out if JJ McCarthy becomes a bust. I know we're going to talk about this other quarterback conundrum that could possibly take place. I think that could save him because, again, Trey Lance to the 49ers. Look at all these potential guys that went there, and that did not wreck that GM's career. You just have to fix it. And I think Kwesi's a great fixer. And so I feel like it's going to come down on him, but just like, Lynch with the 49ers, I think he can fix it.
Yeah. When you don't over leverage yourself, I think that's actually riskier. If you had actually paid Sam Darnold $160 million, that's
Correct.
a bigger swing. That's a bigger decision that could get you in trouble
Falcons
than paying the rookie quarterback. That's just
Correct.
more easily correctable.
Michael
Julia
Penix.
Daniels. Yep. Penix for sure. Yeah, Julia, take it away.
I tend to agree with Ron here. I think it'd have to be an absolute crash and burn of whoever is at quarterback next season in order for Kwesi to lose his job over this. And I think that we've obviously seen what he's able to do in off seasons and build a roster with what he did this past year with free agency. And so I don't think that I'm not particularly worried for Kwesi right now. I think at the moment, if we're just basing it off of like Reggie and Ron said, we don't have a lot of tangible evidence about what JJ McCarthy can do in the league. But if he does end up being even, I would say, half of what they're expecting him to be, I don't think Kwesi's in trouble of like losing his job if he delivers on other fronts, which we've seen him do already. So I don't think that it's something that's going to be, it would have to be like a shock to like, it would have to be horrible. I think where we're all like, get him out of here. This is the guy that you drafted to be the face of your franchise. That's insane. But I don't think that's going to happen. And I think that he's also got other options too, and which we're going to talk about at quarterback, where he's not just like in over his head on a rookie and has to put all his what's the word that I'm looking for here?
Eggs in one basket.
One basket.
Yeah, I was like, what's the better word?
Snowballs in one sled.
Yeah, exactly. So I just think that there's so many other aspects to Kwesi's job besides the quarterback, and I think that Ron's right in saying like there's so many weapons on that offense that it's going to be like it will be hard for any quarterback. I feel like working with Kevin O'Connell too to just utterly crash and burn.
And how many years is this? Is this going to be their fourth year?
Fourth year.
And so I just Googled this as far as what NFL owners have said. They give GMs and head coaches 3 to 4 years to get on the right track before they decide they're going to move on. They've already gotten on the right track from the start. So I think they've earned themselves, even if it is a crash and burn, I think they've earned themselves 3 years to fix the burn. Because they've gotten past the whole like rebuild. They've gotten to 14 wins. Now it's like, hey, we have a rookie quarterback. Let's reset this clock. If you screw it up, I'm going to give you about 3 years, and then I got to move on from you. And so I think he's earned himself actually more time. Speaking of Time Cop, the movie, I don't know if you guys remember that with Justin Timberlake. But if you think, I think it was called Time Cop. But it was it? I think it was called Time Cop with Justin Timberlake. Yeah. But when you think about that whole thing, it would have to be a complete, Julie's right. It would have to be 15 interceptions and 15 touchdowns. Like it would have to be Jameis Winston 30 for 30 type stuff for them to be like, oh my God, this guy sucks. I just don't see it happening. But if it does, I still think they have 3 to 4 years to even correct that. Because what did the 49ers jump the Bears and gave up like what, 2 first-round picks or 3 first-round picks to get Trey Lance? Like they leveraged their entire future. And then they got lucky with Brock Purdy. So you know what I mean? Like I think they can fix it.
Yeah. In Time with Justin Timberlake, I believe is the name.
In Time. There it is. That was a good one.
Amanda Seyfried?
Huh?
Is Amanda Seyfried in that movie?
Yep.
I think so, yeah.
Cillian Murphy.
Like where you can gamble your life away with time. Like I bet you 1,000,000 years.
Yeah.
And then, the rich people have all the time and the poor people don't. Such a good movie. Feels like this is today's society
JT
right
performance. The Kwesi's going to have ample opportunity this offseason to take other big swings that are more costly that he'll be graded on, I think, just as strongly. Like if he goes and he signs a cornerback for 4 years that doesn't work out, or a guard for 4 years that doesn't work out, those are going to be, red X's on his resume as well. But I assume he's going to get a new deal before this season starts. That's a priority this offseason, is to get Kwesi inked going forward. And Ron is right. They're going to give him a chance, I think, to see this through. Now with the cap flexibility, with J.J. McCarthy, the rookie quarterback, see what he can do now in this financial situation. I would say he thrived. He thrived with a bad financial situation that he inherited. Now he's got a good one. What can he do with a little more freedom? I think the sky's the limit. And I think the Vikings have a lot of big decisions coming up in the next week that are going to require Kwesi to spend their resources. I do want to throw this at you after a pause. Are we looking at a J.J. McCarthy versus Daniel Jones? Is that what training camp is going to be? And will it even be versus? Will it be a competition? Or will there be a clear-cut number one in J.J. McCarthy? That's next on our Wednesday special edition of the Minnesota Football Party. We're brought to you today by Chewy. You probably heard of it. They really do have everything you need to keep your pet happy and healthy. Whether you're shopping for food treats or even pet health care, Chewy makes it fast, easy, and affordable. With over 100,000 products from all your favorite brands, Chewy has everything your pet needs, from food and treats to toys, beds, and grooming. Not just for dogs and cats. They've got supplies for birds, fish, reptiles, and small pets too. They make it easy to manage your pet's health with prescription, telehealth, vet visits, and even in-person vet clinics rolling out nationwide. AutoShip, game changer. Set up automatic deliveries for food, treats, or any essentials so you never run out. You can easily change or cancel it anytime. Chewy has everything you need to keep your pet happy and healthy. Julia, write this down for Bo, our good friend. Right now, you can save $20 on your first order. Get free shipping by going to chewy.com or clicking the link in the description. Save $20 on your first order with free shipping by clicking the link in the description. Minimum purchase required. New customers only. Terms and conditions apply. See site for complete details. Rolling along, Minnesota Football Party. There's Bo. Bo in the picture and Bo on Julia's sweatshirt. Is that a caricature of Mr. Bo?
Yes.
Yeah. Beautiful.
He's right behind me.
Custom make. J.J. McCarthy versus Daniel Jones. Ron, gonna let you go first on this. Who is the favorite? I mean, going into training camp, is it a competition, or is this team, by letting Sam Darnold walk, is this team ordaining J.J. McCarthy? Does he have to be the guy, or is that a bad look for the Vikings if he's not?
No, J.J. McCarthy's a guy. If Sam Darnold doesn't get re-signed, they will name him QB1. They will go into training camp with him as QB1. Daniel Jones will be, if he gets re-signed with the Vikings and stays and does the smart thing to learn under Kevin O'Connell so he can have an opportunity to go out there and make money like Sam Darnold's about to do, he will be the backup, which I think is a really good backup, because if you think about what J.J. McCarthy can do with his legs and his arm, Daniel Jones, if something happens, like if the knee flares up, if he gets hit, because we know Vikings quarterbacks don't get late calls, you have a Daniel Jones on the bench at 6'5" or whatever he is, can run the ball, can do the RPO. I would be surprised if Kevin O'Connell, because if you think about the red zone and where Kevin O'Connell struggled this season, it was being able to just run in the red zone. Think about the tush push. Daniel Jones in the tush push. Why waste J.J. McCarthy when you could bring a 6'5" Daniel Jones in and put two tight ends behind him? So I think Kevin O'Connell likes that idea. I just think they have to get through the Sam Darnold thing first. But no, JJ, there will be no quarterback conundrum, controversy, quandary, whatever you want to call it. I don't think there will be any of that. I think Daniel Jones will be the true backup, because again, just like Sam Darnold, he's going to need to learn for a year or two before he gets a chance to be somebody's starting quarterback. And the best place to do it is here in Minnesota, if not the 49ers. I mean, that's another good spot. The Rams is a good spot for him too. But I think if Daniel Jones thinks about it, Minnesota is probably the best place because it's a rookie quarterback. So where is the chance for me to actually play maybe would be Minnesota with a rookie quarterback who maybe, and already has a knee issue. Like he might come into mini camp and as the starting guy, because J.J. McCarthy is on whatever, can't really go yet full go. So we're going to have him with the sleeve on out there in the red jersey. Yeah, but I don't think there'll be a QB controversy with those two.
Julia, your thoughts?
Yeah, I would agree with Ron. I think that this is the time you throw J.J. McCarthy in there, you figure out what he can do, you give him a chance, and then if all else fails, you've got Daniel Jones behind him, which is not a bad option. So I think it's you go ahead and put all your eggs in J.J. McCarthy. use basket, now that I can remember the metaphor. I think you go ahead and you go for it with him. They've only talked about how well he did being sidelined this year, or how he was picking up what they were putting down. Now it's just they got to see it for themselves. But I think that you have to go in and make him QB1, give him that confidence too, way out ahead of the season, so that he goes into the season with the confidence. I think the only way that they don't do that is if he has some kind of setback injury-wise, something else happens. But I think that, yeah, should Daniel Jones stay, which we don't know, obviously, if he's going to, if they're going to re-sign him or not, but I think that it would be a good scenario for him to stay here. He obviously wanted to be here. He wanted to work with Kevin O'Connell. So I think that, yeah, I would agree with Ron. They're going to stick with him, put him QB1, and then kind of see where they go from there. I wouldn't count out necessarily a QB competition, right? Because they always want to foster a competition in every position that they have, especially when it comes to training camp and things like that. But I think that they have to go in and kind of put they've been saying it for forever that they want this guy to be their guy. And so it's time to kind of put your money where your mouth is and try it out at least. And then if all else fails and you do re-sign Daniel Jones, at least you have Daniel Jones, because it's not like Daniel Jones is some horrible quarterback. Mm-hmm. I don't think he was in a great situation with the Giants. And so maybe give him a chance to see what he's got if everything else falls through. So yeah, I completely agree with Ron on that.
Yeah. Reggie, I want your thoughts on this. I also need to clean up something that I'd been talking for a while, thinking that Daniel Jones could sign like a league minimum salary. I don't think that's the case this year. I think it was the case last year. But because he was cut in season, I think that it kind of resets now. I think that he does have to sign like a deal that reflects his value. Probably is like a Sam Darnold-ish value, like a $10 million guy. I just wanted to clean that up because I've been thinking for a while they could get him for $1 million. I don't think that's the case. Nonetheless, you still want to have a high-end backup.
But Sam, the one thing about that though is, I have to go back and look. The money he takes from a team takes away from the money that he's getting already. So I think it's one of those Russell Wilson situations where Russell Wilson went and he took the lowest so that the Broncos would have to keep paying him. I think Daniel Jones has that.
I thought that was the case as well. And I need an authority. I've had people tell me that's not the case, but
it might not be, but I thought it was.
I'm also confused by it. So I need, hey, paging Kevin Seifert, Ben Gessling, people that are really good with salary caps. I need to know. Reggie, next time you're in the facility, Julia, maybe ask around. I need clarity on this. But Reggie, your thoughts on the potential competition?
I think if I can remember right, the way that the Giants structure that deal with Daniel Jones, I think it did allow them to be able to get from under it at a certain point. So I think you are right, Sam, in that he can just sign outright this offseason. But yeah, we have to look a little bit more into that. Here's the thing that I think is interesting about the whole thing. If they do decide to bring Daniel Jones back, I think you are pretty much installing the same type of offense for either quarterback, McCarthy or Jones. They kind of possess similar abilities. Maybe Jones is a little bit faster, but you're talking about a quarterback who can extend plays with his legs and, throw it to the guys that he's supposed to with all the weapons that they have. It's kind of like a similar thing. I do understand Jones is much bigger than McCarthy and he has the size and, he's shown the ability, but I think that the luxury in the situation is if McCarthy is not, ready or, something happens and you have to put Daniel Jones in, I don't think that you have to limit the playbook, or I don't think there's any part of the playbook that's kind of like, off the table, because they kind of do the same thing. I'm interested to see what McCarthy does from a mobility standpoint after the knee injury, but by all accounts, he's ready to go. And so here's the thing. And the only thing that I have that kind of is different from what Ron and Julia are saying is I'm actually good with the QB competition. If they bring in McCarthy and Jones and say, hey, may the best man win, I think it's healthy. I think I think McCarthy kind of showed that he understands the business of it when he was talking to Rich Eisen last month. And so, or I guess January now. And so I think that he understands the whole thing. But I also look at what he did at Michigan and him being in a QB battle with Cade McNamara and him kind of just showing that Jim Harbaugh needed to play him more because he was battling and he was proving that he should be in the lineup, and he eventually took the job and ran away with it. JJ McCarthy, by all accounts, is a gamer, and he's someone who's not afraid of competition. And I think it will bring out the best in him, especially, as opposed to a guy who has seen success in the league in Daniel Jones, has won a playoff game before against the Vikings. And so, this is a guy who has had success. And if he could go out there and battle with a guy who's had success in a favorable system, for QBs with Kevin O'Connell, I think it brings the best out of McCarthy. But here's the thing. I understand like everybody's thought about the whole Darnold situation. It does remind me of last year with Kirk Cousins. Like, it just doesn't necessarily make sense to sign someone to a big deal when you already have a quarterback in the building that you have invested in. You traded up a pick to get him and McCarthy, and you got to see what you have in him. I kind of don't understand. Maybe it's a leverage standpoint, but it's mixed messaging, in my opinion, for all this to be coming out. Oh yeah, the Vikings are not going to tag Darnold, but they're still interested in possibly bringing him back. And I understand the whole leverage situation, but it's really mixed messaging, especially when you consider that you do have McCarthy in the building and you can kind of build a team around him where you don't have to put so much on his shoulders right away as in essence, a rookie quarterback. And so I think you kind of take your chances. Maybe you sign Daniel Jones to a $10-12 million deal or something like that with the extra cap. You go out there and build a bully around, tighten up the offensive line, tighten up the defensive line, and make it to where you don't have to put so much on JJ McCarthy's arm early on until he kind of gets his sea legs and gets things going. But you have to see what you have. All this stuff about, oh yeah, they want to bring Darnold back. What does that look like? I just don't understand that.
And so I will say this, Reggie, you are right. He can sign for 10 to 12 million. The Giants were smart. So I forgot about this. Remember when they told him we're going to bench you or don't do something because they didn't want him to get hurt. Mm-hmm. They didn't want him to get hurt because if he got hurt, they would have owed him $23 million. Yeah. Similar to Russell Wilson. Remember, Russell Wilson was the same thing. The team told him, remove your injury, whatever. So if we're going to play you, if you're not going to remove it, then we're going to bench you so you don't get hurt. Daniel Jones had the same thing, but he actually released his and said, just cut me. Mm-hmm. So they released his and then they cut him, which then freed them from $76 million. He was owed $30 million in 2025 and $46 million in 2026. So they freed themselves from $76 million, and the only thing they're getting hit with is a cap of $22 million. So they got a dead cap hit for him between 20. So instead of paying them $76 million, they just get hit with $22 million. So I think they're like, that's a good trade-off. So yeah, he is free because he didn't have a post June 1 designation. So they're going to carry the $11 million dead cap into 2025 and 2026. So that saves them $30 million.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I wouldn't be surprised if he ended up in a San Francisco either. I feel like they're kind of lukewarm on Purdy right now. Kyle Shanahan's a great offensive mind. That's where Darnold went to rehabilitate his stock. That could be an option for Jones. If it's Minnesota, I would vote for them to not make it an open competition because then you're kind of compelled to honor the results and it's going to be under more scrutiny. And if Daniel Jones is playing better in the preseason, well, you might have to actually start him in week 1. And I think you do need to give JJ McCarthy a little bit of leash. You need to give him a little bit of room to fail. When Joe Burrow came back from his knee injury. He was not super sharp early in that season, but he grew into the role and they made the Super Bowl. And I think that you have to allow for some rookie, quote unquote, rookie mistakes to be made with your young quarterback. I don't really need him to win the competition. I just want him to be the guy. And I want Daniel Jones to be comfortable in his role. I think that you do handle it a little differently when it's your quarterback of the future, your top 10 pick. I think you give him some room to get comfortable in the NFL, and that might mean he makes an occasional mistake. You coach him up from that. But I'd like to put him in those situations right away. Have him with the ones all training camp. Give him every possible rep against the best possible competition, because he's got to be on a crash course now. He missed a whole year. You've got to expedite his development, and the only way to do that, I think, is to make him your number one. When we return on the Minnesota Football Party, we'll talk about Jared Allen's induction and who is the current Viking that will next be inducted into the Hall of Fame. That's coming up next on the Minnesota Football Party. Very quick pause. All right, Jared Allen was in the building this week. He is going to be inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame, which got me thinking, Julia, which current Viking or Vikings do you think will be wearing a gold jacket in Canton?
You're not going to believe this. You're not going to believe
me.
What I'm going to say.
Shock me. Garrett Bradbury? What? What'd you say?
I have this feeling it's going to be Justin Jefferson.
If he retired today, let me make it more complicated. If he retired today, is he in?
If he retired today.
So that's 2020.
That's not how that works.
21, 22, 23. 5 years? 5 years so far.
No. Is that controversial for me to say that no, I don't think he's in if he retired today?
I think it's actually a really good question. I think it's close.
I think that he would be on the ledge of getting in, but I think you give him a few years and you're going to have a for sure yes answer. But yeah, Justin Jefferson, 100%. I think we've yet to see Justin Jefferson's very best, which is exciting because he's been so phenomenal already. But I think that his best years are still yet to come. And hopefully, if JJ McCarthy turns out to be the guy they expect him to be, then he has a quarter. I know he always says it doesn't matter who's playing quarterback, but it does matter who's playing quarterback. So I think that if I obviously had to pick one, it's got to be Justin Jefferson. But I don't think it's a for sure yes should he retire today. No.
Yeah. So JJ would be the clear offensive choice. Mm-hmm. On defense, Harrison Smith would be the question around him is it first ballot, right? Because Reggie, you were pointing out, look at the numbers. It seems obvious that Jared Allen should have been first ballot. He didn't get first ballot. And Harrison Smith has flown under the radar kind of his whole career. Is he a first ballot guy?
But do you also think that because of – I think sometimes Vikings players get overlooked because postseason hasn't been so great too?
Mm-hmm. Yes. I think that's 100% fair. That on the biggest stages, they just haven't been super visible.
Right.
100%. Yep. I get that. Reggie, your thoughts?
Yeah, I would say Harrison Smith, but the tough part, the whole first ballot thing is tough, and it doesn't necessarily make a rhyme or reason for me with who gets in on first ballot and who doesn't. I've been banging the table on Torrey Holt for years, and Ron's good friend Reggie Wayne. I think they both deserve to be Hall of Famers already, and they're still waiting. And so it doesn't necessarily make sense, like the whole first ballot thing. And as we were saying before this, like banging the table on Jared Allen, 85.5 sacks just as a Viking, and he's got 136 for his career. Usually once you get that 100 mark, you're like pretty much a lock to get in the Hall. But I mean, even exceeded that. I just thought that he would have been a first ballot, and he was, left as a finalist for a few years before he eventually got in. And I do think it's kind of weird that they capped the number of Hall of Famers this year. Like, I thought that maybe they could have added 2 or 3 more, and they decided not to for whatever reason. And, I think all the guys who got in are more than deserving, but, Torrey Holt, man, Torrey Holt.
Ron.
No, if he retires now, he does not get in. And the reason is because if you look at Sterling Sharp and all the other guys that have had shorter careers now, will somebody like, would Jamar Chase take up a ballot writing in contest to say he was one of the best when he did it and he retired due to injury? It depends on why he stops too. Like if he retires just because he's like, look, I'm rich, I'm done. No. Now, if it's like a season-ending injury or career-ending injury or something like that, then yeah, because I know that's come up with certain linebackers that retire due to concussions or due to whatever. So I would say no, because Sterling Sharp was a Triple Crown winner, and it took forever for him to get in. And it was all because of Shannon consistently bringing it up, talking about that. Like, hey, this is why he should be in. My brother needs to be in. And so they finally put him in. Justin Jefferson would not after 5 years. No.
Harry, first ballot, Ron?
Yes. Definitely, yes. Paul Krause, you look at the numbers and the things he's done in the NFL, the number of interceptions, and it's all about respect. Like he has the respect of every voter in the NFL, and that's the key. I hate to say it. Some of these people don't deserve votes, and they have them. And some people are petty, even in baseball. Like I keep hearing this from Big Papi. I love watching like Alex Rodriguez and Big Papi and those guys talk about the Hall of Fame voters, and they're still questioning like, why do some of these guys have votes? That's what I mean too, is like Harrison Smith, the voters love him. He is a media guy. He's never had an issue. Yes, I think if he's not first ballot, oh my God, what are we doing? Like he should be. I mean, you think about because he's not, and Julia's right though. He doesn't have like the Troy Polamalu Super Bowls, and he doesn't have the Ed Reed Super Bowl, like moments and all that stuff. But he's solid, and he did it for a long time, and his numbers are up there with interceptions, sacks, and I forgot the other metric that like no other safety has done, or whatever, only 5 safeties have ever done. That's the key. Like it sucks that he's never. I mean, hopefully not saying, oh man, I don't want to say never get into a Super Bowl. He might get to one, maybe this year. But if he doesn't, that's what's going to suck. Is like never get into a Super Bowl, so he's never going to have that Ed Reed, Troy Polamalu, Brian Dawkins type of. Because even Brian Dawkins didn't win it, but they went. Like that's the thing. Like you have to get there at least, and so that's always going to be the knock on Harrison Smith's teams.
I'm looking at the direct comparison right now. Troy Polamalu is a first ballot Hall of Famer 2020. Harrison Smith, a little more longevity. He's played 34 more games than Polamalu. He's got 5 more interceptions. He has 8.5 more sacks. He has like 250 more tackles than Troy Polamalu. Big difference. 2 Super Bowls.
2 Super Bowls.
2 Super Bowls for Troy.
Look at Eli Manning. If Eli has more Super Bowls, he probably goes in sooner. And he has some, and they still didn't put him in. So,
and Eli's polarizing, right? Like Eli's numbers. I mean, I'd have to stack him up. Probably not that dissimilar from a Matt Ryan or a Kirk Cousins, but Super Bowl homeboy. That's what it's all about. I think Harry's a first ballot. Is there a wild card? Is there a wild card Viking on the roster right now who is a future Hall of Famer? Shout it out if you have one.
Wild card. Christian Darrisaw's not a wild card, right?
I think that's a good answer. I mean, I think he's got to do it for another 10 years.
Yeah, but I think he has the Trent Williams trajectory of a career. Like, like he has that ability. He has that anchor, like the way people talk about him already. By the way, that was my pick on the pregame show. I picked Christian Darrisaw. Not a lot of people thought the Vikings would go get him in that spot. I did that like 3 years in a row. I had Justin Jefferson in there. Everybody thought I was stupid. Justin Jefferson wouldn't be there because the Eagles were going to do the right thing. Thank you, Eagles. You made me look really smart. I mean, I got to find that clip. Like Paul Allen, when I said Justin Jefferson, he like basically like moved on. He didn't even like everybody else was getting a response. Like, oh, I could see him drafting them. Oh, I could see why they did that. I said Justin Jefferson. He's like, all right, next. Like, I'm like, okay. And then he got picked. Nobody said anything to me. They're like, oh, okay, Ron Free. And I just got lucky. The Eagles are stupid. So, sorry, they won the Super Bowl though. They've made up for it. But they were stupid with that one.
I love the clip, the video that circulates of the Zoom call of the Vikings reacting to the Eagles taking Rager is so good. It's timeless. And the best part is that Rager ended up being a Viking 2 years later. That's
the Vikings
wild.
should have thanked Rager for running that fast at the combine and be like, man, we appreciate you.
Yes. Thank
you. Oh. Is that still that's not the Eagles front office anymore though, right? Are those guys gone?
No, that's the same group that's won 2 Super Bowls.
Oh, he's still there. Okay.
And Howie Roseman.
Howie Roseman. They just signed Saquon Barkley to a 2-year extension.
Yeah.
And they didn't have to do that. So look
I don't know.
that
is a little odd. That is definitely a little odd.
It's a locker room play. Blake Barrett, which we'll have one of his clients on, Cody Lindenberg, later. We're interviewing him today, but we'll have him on next week. Blake Barrett just tweeted that Howie Roseman is smart. He's winning the locker room over by being loyal to a guy like Saquon Barkley, who everybody loves.
I think it's just an extra dagger in the back of the Giants front office to say, we have a good player who's changed our franchise. Let's pay him.
Yep. And Sirianni is petty. We know that. So
good for him, man. That was best case scenario. You know, you go to a competitor in the division, they decide to pay you. You win a Super Bowl with a nearly 2,000-yard season, and you're like, oh, yeah, we'll give them even more money. Like that was best case scenario.
The preemptive raise before it becomes an issue. Kind of smart. I mean, if you wait till after next year, then there's a contract standoff. Then there's a holdout in training camp. You get ahead of it when you do it this way, even if you spend a little bit more than you need to.
I just wonder what the Giants film study looks like on defense when they know they got to play the Eagles. Like, because you talk about players okay, Justin Jefferson, we got to keep a guy over the top, or AJ Brown, we got to do this, or Jamar Chase, you can't let him, don't fall for the banana in the tailpipe with the fake screens. Like, do they even just gloss over the Saquon Barkley? Like,
just call God.
Like, we're not even talking about we got to put 8 people in the box. Like,
it's 26 hard runner number 26.
Well, the Giants have a camera probably in there too. They're like, hey, guys, don't say anything bad about ownership because they're watching us right now. Like the severance. The Giants would be a great severance group. Like, you just walk into the building, you forget who you are, just be a Giant for the day. And then you go home and you have no idea you work for the Giants. That would be a great job. What a franchise to want to be severance. Giants and Jets. They just need to do it together. Like, that would be great.
Jared Allen threw some shade at the Jets apparently in that press conference. Julia, what were you going to say?
Oh, you guys were talking about crotch. I said, isn't it? It's almost like they're getting ahead of it because could be way more expensive later on.
That's with inflation, cap going up $300 million.
The running back is back, much to Aaron Jones's delight. He's been screaming it all season.
About the running back.
Hey, Ron, don't mess up this moment.
Ron,
don't do that.
I'd say a couple teams running backs are back. I don't know if everybody believes that.
It's back, baby. It's back.
Run it back with Aaron Jones. Last one. Let's do a little speed round with this. There's a report from Alec Lewis from the Combine. The Vikings are not satisfied with their number of draft picks, which is 4, and they're considering trade backs. This is where Kwesi got in trouble in draft number 1. The trade back for Scene that kind of kicked off a tough stretch of drafting, to put it mildly, for Kwesi. This could get him in trouble again, I think. I think that if you mess around at 24, you've got to get spectacular value if you're going to trade back, because there are going to be good players. There are going to be valuable players that could help you substantially in the first round. Unless you're getting 2 2s or like a high 2 and a high 3, you got to be really careful.
I want to pay off the tees with this one.
Go.
I've been waiting for this the whole show.
Yes.
Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah worked for the Browns under Andrew Berry. We also know Kevin Stefanski is friends of the Vikings organization. They are trying to trade Myles Garrett, so possibly they're going to get more draft capital. So currently, right now, they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 picks. That looks like one of those, what's the guy's name who used to be the Vikings GM? Spielman drafts. Like when you just got a whole bunch of 6 and 7 round picks and you're just picking to see what hits the wall and throwing spaghetti. That's the move for the Vikings. If they want to trade that first round pick, here's why. If they get rid of Myles Garrett and trade him, he's not going to get a first round pick, I don't think. I think it's either going to be player for player or it's going to be like a second and a third maybe, or something like that. Because the fact that Debo went for a 5th it's starting to make me realize these older guys are not going to go for what they think they're going to go for. Also, why probably people are like, there's no trade market for Sam Darnold. If Deebo Samuel goes for a 5th, Sam Darnold went for a 9th pick or something. You know, like I just there's no trade value there. Here's the thing about this. They have a 1st round pick, number 2 overall, huge. They could trade back if they don't have anything they want to get in there. Because if they don't want to get quarterback, maybe they want to go get Will Johnson at corner. Maybe they want to get Travis Hunter and change the organization. Or Mason Graham, because you get rid of him and you go get the big defensive tackle. But then they got a 2nd, 2 thirds. So the Minnesota Vikings could say, hey, we will trade you the 24th pick. So now you're back in the 1st round. So now instead of 33, you get to go to 24. Those are technically the same in a lot of people's minds. 24 to 37. I think a lot of people feel like those are the same value picks when you look at Antoine Winfield, Dalvin Cook, Brian O'Neill, so on and so forth. You trade that. You also get one of their thirds because they have 2. And then you could be happy there, and that should be enough. Or you could get sneaky and say, hey, give me one of your 6, man. You don't need that. You my boy, man. Like, I work for you. I love you, man. Like, and I'll do something for you eventually. That's where I would go. Maybe you're going to want Daniel Jones in a year or 2. That's where I would go with that. I would do something of that caliber. Here's a scary, loud one, and give them Dallas Turner. They got rid of Myles Garrett. Hey, you can take Dallas Turner off our hands if you give us a couple more picks. Now, again, that's crazy because they have 2 Pro Bowl defensive outside linebackers, and Dallas Turner's really good. I'm just saying, if you want to swing for the fences and you want to get some draft capital, you got the pieces there.
I love it. Ron has convinced me. Julia, your thoughts? Team trade back?
So I'm supposed to follow that
up? Sorry, I've been researching that for a long time. I was like, how can they get these picks? And it's the Browns.
Had his notebook out and everything.
Oh yeah, I've been on the tea. I've been Luke Brown in it a little bit. I was on the tea leaves of Twitter, and there kept being all these Kwesi. If you Google Kwesi and Adolfo Mensa, just look at all the stuff that follows it that people were like Googling that potential. Like, it's some of the dumbest stuff. Somebody said, did they ever date? Like, what is wrong with the world? It's like, you know, people are stupid. And then you go into Reddit, and then I ended up in a rabbit hole on some of that stuff. So
I'm gonna go no, don't trade back, selfishly because we're sending Reggie to the draft, and that would be lame. That would be so lame.
Reggie, are you only doing day one, Reggie? Are you just doing day one, or would you stay for the whole day?
No, just day one. Just day one.
Yeah, so like stick around so we can get our ratings up.
If the Vikings get 2 additional picks though on Friday, so then they have a total of 3, you got to stay another day.
Yeah, just stay.
Just stay.
Stay. Actual Brett Favre hangs out.
It's a beautiful city. There's lots of rich culture.
I'll say this, Reggie, just prepare for your code open after the trade back. Like, just have it ready to go.
They're actually going to do it right at 5:59.
Oh.
Well, no.
So have your teas ready to go, Reggie, for the trade back.
Right at 9:59.
Just get ready for the trade back.
Yeah.
Y'all are giving me PTSD because I was so ready to talk about this first draft pick of the new regime, and I was banging the table for them to draft Jameson Williams, and obviously it worked out because they ended up getting Addison a year later or whatever. But I was ready. I was so ready for this pick, and then they trade back to 32. They literally announced Louis Cine right as the Sports Open was happening. Right as the Sports Open was happening. And I'm like, oh, and I didn't even know, like, I hadn't even heard of them. Like, I had been doing my draft, stuff and talking about potential picks that they could take at the position they were in. And then they trade back 20 spots. And I'm like, okay, I think I called him Louis Cine or something. I didn't know anything about him. It was just a bad night. I didn't enjoy that night. So
that's brutal. Yeah, and you had to hang around for another couple hours.
So here's another worst nightmare is Kwesi trading out of the first round, and I'm just stuck in Green Bay talking about what didn't happen. That just all the things that you said about the Green Bay, Sam, I'm not here for it. Not much. I mean, it's a historic NFL town, whatever. Not a whole lot to it, though.
A bar on every corner. They got some good casinos. You know,
I don't drink.
Town.
I don't gamble.
Oh,
well, no thanks. Well, get some cheese curds and get out of there, I guess.
Yeah. Find a room at the local Holiday Inn and
in Appleton, because you can't get a room in Green Bay. So yeah.
Looking forward to this.
Don't do it, Kwesi. Don't do it.
Yeah. Kwesi, day 2 picks for Kwesi. He's only had 3 of them. Andrew Booth did not work. Ed Ingram benched. I'm sorry, he's had 4. Brian Asamoah benched. And Mekhi Blackman injured. So we have no.
Mekhi Blackman might still work out. I keep forgetting about him.
Yeah, he might be all right. He might do some stuff.
If Kwesi turns the first into a couple of day 2s, I don't know if we have evidence to say that he's going to nail him. We also don't have a lot of evidence at all.
Here's my thing, Sam, and I think this is where I was going before we kind of switched it up here. But I think it depends on what happens in free agency. Like if he hits a home run in free agency, as he's been doing the last few years, I think it kind of takes some of the pressure off to try to trade back and get more picks. But that's just me.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a super active free agency. I mean, I don't think, and I think Kwesi believes this too. The draft is not about filling needs. The draft is about getting talent. It's not about filling needs. That's what free agency is for. So I think the needs will be filled. I think he'll be in a position where he can go best player available in the draft. I don't think there's going to be a lot of pressure to go find your new right guard in the first round. That's not going to be the case. He's going to handle it all in March.
Is round 4 on day 3 or day 2?
Day 3.
Okay. I was about to say because Jay Ward is in that one. I forgot about that. That's day.
That's the first round of day 3.
As Luke Inman would say, GGYG, go get your guys.
Go get your guys. Luke Inman and Luke Braun and Arif Hassan, they'll be back on tomorrow's Minnesota Football Party. For Julia Daniels and Reggie Wilson, find them on KARE 11. For Ron Johnson, check out the Ron Johnson Show on Tuesdays here on Locked On Sports Minnesota. And I'm Sam Ekstrom. We appreciate you watching, listening, commenting. Thank you for that. And subscribing to Locked On Sports Minnesota. We will talk to you soon on the Minnesota Football Party.